The game. That is literally all you have to say. Just those two words, the game. And everybody who is even the smallest college football fan ever knows exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what you're talking about, if you're asking yourself right now, the game, what is he speaking of? What could that mean? It's just the game. You could be talking about any of the games going on this weekend. That's not true. The game is between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the University of Michigan Wolverines. And this is the biggest rivalry, not only in just college football, but in all of college sports, in my personal opinion. These two teams just absolutely hate each other. And this matchup is everything that is glorious about college football. And I hear the argument all the time from college football fans that are saying, you know what? College football is being ruined. It is being ruined before our eyes with NIL, with transfer portal, with all this conference realignment and everything. College football as we know it is ruined. And you know what I always say to that person? Put yourself in this scenario. Okay, Michigan is playing Ohio State. Everything is on the line against with these two teams in their bitter rivalry, and it's 4th down and 1 on the 20-yard line in the fourth quarter with the game on the line. And until that moment is ruined, and I don't feel anything about that moment, that will be the day that college football is ruined. And it's lucky for us, that day is not today because this rivalry still means so much and it has defined the last decade of Big Ten football. I mean, I remember in my lifetime growing up when I was first getting into college football, across all of the 2010s, Michigan was owned by Ohio State. I mean, everybody's knock on the Wolverines was, yeah, I mean, they can have good teams, but they can't beat Ohio State. Jim Harbaugh struggled like hell to beat Ohio State. And the Buckeyes just tranced Michigan every single year. Every time it felt like Michigan had a chance, whether it was with Jabril Peppers in 2016. I mean, you can argue all you want if JT Barrett was shorter, if he got that first down, but Ohio State ended their hopes right then and there in Columbus. 2 years later, Michigan was undefeated, or they had one loss to Iowa, going on the road to the Horseshoe to take on the Buckeyes with their playoff hopes on the line. And once again, Ohio State just demolished Michigan and ended those chances. I mean, Michigan didn't stand a chance against the Buckeyes. But that all changed in 2021. And I still remember the day. I was in my grandmother's house, right over there. I was sitting literally right over there watching Blake Corum, watching Hassan Haskins run wild over Ohio State and take down the Buckeyes, which kicked off an era of Michigan misery for Ohio State. I mean, my goodness. In 2021, like I just said, they gave up 297 yards rushing to Michigan and 5 sacks to David Ojabo and, of course, Aiden Hutchinson. In 2022, C.J. Stroud threw 2 crucial picks, and they allowed 3 big plays, two to Donovan Edwards, of all people, and then one to Colston Loveland down the sideline. And with that, Michigan won 2 in a row, but it didn't stop there. In 2023, Kyle McCord threw 2 crucial bad picks late in the game, or one at the very beginning of the game and one at the very end. And their front seven couldn't make enough plays to stop Blake Corum and company. And Michigan won against Ohio State in a battle between number 2 and number 3 to make the playoffs. And eventually, Ohio or Michigan lost in the first round of TCU that year. In 2024, we thought for sure that the streak was going to end. We thought 100%. Okay, well, Michigan, they're what, 8-3 going into this game? No, 7-3 going into this game, or 7-4. They were 7-4 going into this game, and Ohio State was looking phenomenal. They were 10-1. They were the much better team. They were ranked in the top 5. Michigan hadn't sniffed the AP poll in weeks, and crazily enough, Ohio State just had bad voodoo the whole game. They missed 2 field goals. Will Howard threw 2 terrible interceptions, and they couldn't run the ball at all with Quinshaw Judkins and Travion Henderson. Those guys are tearing it up in the National Football League right now. They couldn't run the ball against Michigan at all last year. And with that, Ryan Day is 53-2 versus teams not named Michigan in the regular season, and he is 0-4 versus Michigan in that time span. That is one of the craziest stats that you will ever see in a rivalry standpoint. I mean, Ohio State's been dominant. They've been so good in the regular season. It's been crazy, except for against Michigan. That has been their crucial Achilles heel, the thorn in their side, whatever metaphor you want to come up with. They have not been able to beat the Wolverines, and that's the game they want to win the most. I mean, just to put this rivalry into context, Ohio State won the national championship last year, and it's still argued amongst their fans whether it was a successful season or not because they lost to Michigan. I mean, that is just what makes college football so brilliant. And that's why I love this rivalry so much. So let's look at this year. What is at stake for OHIO? What is at stake with a win and with a loss for Ohio State? So with a win, Ohio State would have their first 12-0 regular season, their first perfect season since 2019. And that's a great accomplishment for Ryan Day. This would also be their first win over Michigan since 2019. It's been that long. It's been 6 years since Ohio State has beaten Michigan. And I'm pretty sure they've been favored in all of those matchups. So just crazy performances from Michigan have led to that. This would also be their first Big Ten championship appearance since 2020. I mean, let's not forget, they didn't play Michigan in 2020. So single-handedly, Michigan has kept Ohio State from winning Big Ten championships just by beating them, no matter how bad they've been. And it's literally just been their Achilles heel. They cannot beat Michigan. But with a loss, with a win, all that glory is there. You finally get a win over Michigan. You do it on the road. Big Ten championship appearances locked up. People are talking about Ohio State like they're just an absolute juggernaut, like they're impossible to beat. They're the best team in college football. And honestly, that really seems to be true. If you win this game, you cement yourself as not only better than a lot of other teams in college football right now, but also better than yourself has been the last 5 years with that win over Michigan. But if you lose, that means Michigan, for the third time in the last 4 years, has ended Ohio State's perfect season with a win in the very last week of the regular season, which is crazy. And they also have 6 losses in a row versus Michigan. If they lose this game, that hasn't happened since 1901 to 1909. That is over 100 years ago. There's probably not a single human being on earth who has seen Michigan be as dominant over Ohio State in a 6-year stretch as they have been if Ohio State loses this game. Their Big Ten title hopes are gone, and once again, just like it did last year, is the Ryan Day heat back? I mean, if this Ohio State team that is so talented, that is so skilled, that has been an absolute buzzsaw, that is just running through teams, if they lose to Michigan to a freshman quarterback, I mean, you might say it's crazy. I think it's crazy. I think Ryan Day is a great coach who knows how to hire a great staff. So no, I would not fire him. But they're going to be talking just out of their minds in Columbus if Ryan Day loses this game, and they are going to almost demand that he gets fired. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that it could happen, but there's going to be a lot of talk if Ohio State loses this game 100%. So let's look at Michigan. What is at stake for Big Blue Nation? Well, first of all, if they win, their ownership of Ohio State continues, which is just hilarious. They will have won 6 in a row against the Buckeyes. I've talked about how that hasn't happened since 1901. And they have a chance of a playoff spot if they win this game. I'm just going to say a chance because, of course, a lot of Michigan fans are going to 100% say they deserve to be in the playoffs if they win this game. They'll be 10-2 with a win over Ohio State. So it seems like they would deserve to be in the playoffs. But there may just be so many 10-2 teams, and I don't know. It's not 100% if they win this game, but they definitely give themselves a chance, and they build a great resume with their by far best win of the year. And they also have a slim of a chance of a Big Ten championship. It's probably not going to happen. They need Oregon or Indiana to lose. Both of those teams are favored. Indiana is definitely going to win. They're playing Purdue, but Oregon is playing at Washington. That's a huge game. If Oregon loses and Michigan wins, they are in the Big Ten championship, and that's a realistic scenario. And Michigan has not been in the Big Ten championships in 2 years, so it'd be nice for them to get back there. But with a loss, it seems like everything that you could have to gain this season, both in the Big Ten championship race, in the playoff race, and in your quest to beat Ohio State 6 straight times, it all comes fumbling down. If they lose, Ohio State will break the streak on their home turf. So we will see Ohio State probably like planting their flag in the Big M on Michigan, and Michigan would get really mad, and their students would be really upset, and it would just be a rough scene for Michigan fans. Their playoff chances would be gone. I don't think anyone thinks a 9-3 Michigan without a win over Ohio State deserves to be in the playoffs. And their Big Ten championship hopes are also gone. So you may ask yourself, what is on the line for Michigan? Literally everything. Everything is on the line. They could gain so much still. I mean, if Michigan's season goes perfectly from here on out, they beat Ohio State, Oregon loses to Washington, they win the Big Ten championship, they get to the playoffs, and they make noise there. And that could all happen. But if they lose, Then Ohio State has a perfect season. They're 12-0, probably going to win the Big Ten championship, probably going to be number one overall team in the nation, might win another national championship. Your streak over the Buckeyes is over. Playoff hope's gone. Big Ten championship hope's gone. Just like that. Everything is on the line for Michigan. And that is what is going to make this game so awesome. Not to mention, there's a chance it could be a snow game. And there is nothing better. There's nothing better than snow games in football. It's just the most beautiful thing ever. So let's look at this game, but let's actually break down what I think could happen in this game and what these two teams have been doing all year and where I think the mismatches are and where I think each coaching staff can exploit the other. So first of all, let's look at Ohio State's offense. It hasn't been this crazy juggernaut this year. I mean, Julian Saint's been playing great. He only has one interception in Big Ten play. I put his last 5 games right there for you to look at, and they're phenomenal. I mean, the stats speak for themselves. His completion percentage is through the roof. He is so efficient. He's been such a good passer. Of course, it's not like he's playing Georgia and Texas A&M and Texas every week, but he's still been elite. And you might say to yourself, the argument is, Julian's saying, yeah, he's been great, but he's not playing good teams. Well, I don't see anybody else in the Big Ten putting up the numbers that Julian's saying is. So you at least have to admit that he is the best quarterback in the Big Ten right now because he is putting up those numbers. They're second in pass yards per game in the Big Ten. Of course, that also is credited to Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. And just another amazing thing about this game, Ohio State has sat Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate over like the last 2 weeks just so that they are 100% fully healthy to play Michigan. So you might be saying to yourself, I've heard Ohio State fans say, oh, Michigan, all they care about is beating us. We're better than, we want to beat them, but like we care about more than that. No, you don't. You want to beat Michigan just as badly as they want to beat you. And that to me is a clear indicator of that. Sitting some of your best players just so they're ready to play Michigan is just awesome. I think that's so cool. The one thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is not the offensive line as a whole. I mean, they've allowed 6 sacks all season. And Julian Sayin isn't very big. Like I mentioned, he's 6'1", 208. He's kind of a small dude. He's not shedding tackles like Arch Manning is, or Bryce Underwood is. And so their sack numbers aren't super low because of that. Their sack numbers are super low because their offensive line, their pass blocking has been unreal. So that's not what my concern is. But my concern is they've been a little stagnant in the run game at times. And I know I'm being hypercritical right now. I really am. But it's just, I'm just saying, against Texas, they had only 2.3 yards per carry. And that's not a lot. And I think that's why they struggled offensively in that game. And they had 5.1 yards per carry against Washington in the first half. I know that's still pretty good, but they still struggled offensively. They only scored 7 points in the first half against Washington. So I think if there's any area that Ohio State is weak on offense, and they are so strong. Julian Sayin is so good. The wide receivers are so good. They have so much talent. But the only area that they are weak, in my opinion, maybe could potentially be their rushing attack. Maybe. But they're still really good there. Still 7th in the Big Ten in rushing yards per game. They're second in third down percentage in the nation. That just tells you how efficient they are. And they've only turned the ball over 7 times all season long. This offense is not like the most explosive, dynamic offense ever, but they're the most efficient offense in the country, in my opinion, in terms of taking care of the football, converting third downs, playing ahead of the sticks, and they also have just 2 absolute superstars in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. So yes, Ohio State's offense is very good. That's not really a shocker. They're going to be going up against a Michigan defense that has been pretty good this year. I'm not going to say it's been elite. I think it's underachieved a little bit, but they've still been really solid in certain areas, especially in the front 7. I mean, Michigan State's front is very, very good. An interesting thing to look out for, Ernest Hausman, their captain, their leading tackler, is questionable for this game. And that injury report might have changed by, I think last night is when I last looked at it. I think he's going to play. I'd be shocked if he doesn't play. But that's just their leader on the front 7. If he's not 100% or if he's a little banged up, that just could be something to look out for. But with him, Michigan has been fantastic this year against the run. They are 3rd in the Big Ten in rushing yards allowed per game with only 94. They're allowing under 100 rushing yards per game. So that's just an interesting thing to look at. Ohio State could struggle running the ball. Michigan is really good against the run. So advantage Michigan there, potentially, because Ohio State could open the floodgates and run for 200 yards. Who knows? Michigan has gotten to the quarterback really well this year. Derek Moore has been the leader of that, 9.5 sacks this season. He's a great pass rusher. He can bull rush you. He can speed rush around. He's got great hands. He's a great player. Of course, I talked about Ohio State's pass protection being elite, so he's going to have to deal with that, but he's still a great player. They've been okay on third down and okay forcing turnovers. Ohio State's elite in both of those categories. But the major concern for Michigan this year has been their secondary, and I think that's like for the most part because of injuries. Rod Moore is injured for this game. That's their starting safety. That's a very important injury for Michigan. And Ohio State's passing game is elite. Like I've been saying, it's so efficient. Julian Saint is so careful with the ball, and their receivers are so explosive. So, and they're going up against a banged up, not elite Michigan secondary. So that's definitely advantage Ohio State. Definitely something to look out for. So what about when Michigan has the ball? Michigan offensively, they've been so much better than they were last year. Do we remember how terrible Michigan was last year? Oh, I didn't even want to watch Michigan games. It was awful. And this year, with addition of number one overall recruit Bryce Underwood, they've been much better. They're sixth in the Big Ten in total yards per game, second in rushing yards per game. They've been running the ball so well. And at the beginning of the season, all the talk was about Justice Haynes. Transferred from Alabama. He was good with the Crimson Tide, not great. Comes to Michigan, popped. He was playing so good. He had 100+ rushing yards in like his first 6 games of the year. He was balling out. But he went down with an injury against Michigan State, and he's been out all year after that. And people have been concerned. They're saying, "Oh, no, Justice Haynes." But Jordan Marshall, who's a completely different back. Justice Haynes is like barely 200 pounds. He's really explosive. He's really athletic. He hits the hole and he goes. Jordan Marshall is 5'11", 216. That dude is a unit. He is big. He gets the dirty yards. He fights. He will break arm tackles. And he's been so good. Like, look at his last 4 games. He's rushed for over 110 yards the last 4 games. So they lost Justice Haynes. They lost their bell cow, and they did not miss a beat. Jordan Marshall has been fantastic this year. And the main thing I was concerned about with this Michigan offense heading into the season and still today has been their lack of sort of explosiveness from their wide receiver room. It's been Andrew Marsh and Donovan McCulley that have been leading the way so far this season. Andrew Marsh is the true freshman. Donovan McCulley is a little bit older, a little bit more mature. But they still haven't been great. I think that's the main reason why Michigan is 13th in passing yards per game. And honestly, they're going to need some individual brilliance out of Bryce Underwood to win this game because they're going against one of the greatest defenses that I have ever seen in college football in my lifetime. They are so, so good. They are first in yards allowed per game, not only in the Big Ten, but also in the entire nation. They're only giving up 206 yards per game. Second place is Toledo, who is allowing 240 yards per game. And that mark, 206 yards per game, is the lowest yards per game allowed since ESPN started tracking defensive data. So, yeah, this defense is nuts. They are absolutely insane on all 3 levels. That being defensive line, linebackers, and safeties and corners. They are so good. They are just absolutely elite. They're first by far in passing yards allowed per game. They're only allowing 126 passing yards per game. That's nothing. That is so crazy. And usually when you see a stat like that, you see a team that's so good against the pass. It's because teams don't need to throw the ball against them because they can run the ball so well. But Ohio State's first in rushing yards allowed per game also. So there's literally you can't do anything against this Ohio State offense. I mean, you can't take a 5-step drop because Cade Curry will get home like that. You can't run the ball because their front 7 is so good and their linebackers are so fantastic with Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. You can't throw the ball against man coverage because Jermaine Matthews and David Igbinosun are such good corners. And you can't stretch the ball down the field because one of the best defensive players in college football, Caleb Downs, is their free safety. So there's just no answer. No one has been able to move the ball at all against this Ohio State team. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know if Michigan's going to be able to. I think they're going to need a heck of a lot of individual brilliance from Bryce Underwood. I don't trust these receivers to make plays. I think this is the best secondary in the country with Igbinosun and Jermaine Matthews. I mean, maybe Jordan Marshall is just an absolute freak in this game and can carry Ohio State defenders for like 5 yards every play. But even that, I don't think is a very consistent answer to how to operate against this Ohio State defense. So listen. This happened the last 2 years that I felt all logic, everything that I looked at pointed towards Ohio State, and it does again this year. I mean, I see their defense. It's so good at every level. Their defense is awesome, and Michigan's offense has struggled a lot of times, and they can't really throw the ball very well. And I look at Michigan's defense against Ohio State's offense, and I see Michigan struggled against the pass. And Julian Saint has been so good, and these wide receivers are so good. And I say to myself, there's no way Michigan wins this game. But then I think about it and I say, you know what? It's going to be it's in Ann Arbor. It's in the big house. Bryce Underwood, true freshman quarterback, has a chance to cement himself as a Michigan legend. It could be a snow game. There's just so much in my body that wants me to pick Michigan in this game. So I said, you know what? Screw what I think. Screw all that. I don't care about picking Ohio State. I don't care about being like everyone else. I said, give me the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm taking Ohio State no matter what. I got them winning 23-10. I think it's gonna be a little lower scoring than people might think. I wanted to pick Michigan, but man, Ohio State's defense is just too elite. I really just don't see how Michigan will move the ball. It needs to be individual brilliance from Bryce Underwood. I'm talking about third and longs where he just breaks 2 sacks and rolls around and makes an amazing play with his legs or his arm. And I mean that's great and all, and he's recruited to do that. But can he actually do it against this Ohio State defense? I don't know. I think Michigan really needs to force turnovers, but man, Julian Sand has been careful with the ball all year. Like I said, only 1 interception in Big Ten play so far this season. I don't think that's going to change. And Jeremiah and Carnell Tate being back are just difference makers. So, no, I don't think Michigan's going to win this game, but they do have a chance. They really do. To win this game, I think, first of all, they must stop the run at all costs. That's what they did last year. And Will Howard turned the ball over. They did it against Ohio State 2 years ago. Kyle McCord turned the ball over. They did it against CJ Stroud. He turned the ball over. So if they can stop the run, maybe, just maybe, Julian Sand turns the ball over a couple times. And they really need 1 or 2 big plays. If it's from Jordan Marshall, if it's from Andrew Marsh, whoever it is, they need an explosive player to just rattle this Ohio State defense a little bit. I think, like I said earlier, Underwood needs to be otherworldly on third down, and they can't make it easy for Ohio State. They can't give Ohio State touchdowns by turning the ball over in plus territory. They can't fumble. They can't be terrible on special teams. They need to be perfect in the little things if they want to pull this game off. But I just don't think it's going to happen. And you know what? This marks like the 5th straight year I picked Ohio State to win this game, and they've lost every single time. So yes, I could very much so be wrong. There is definitely a world where Michigan wins this game. It could very much happen. And I honestly hope they do, because if they do, if just think about this. If Ole Miss loses, if Michigan wins, if Georgia Tech wins, and if Texas wins, there is and Miami wins, and Notre Dame wins, and BYU wins and loses to Texas Tech, there could be so much chaos. There are so many 10-2 teams that are just sitting right there that no one knows what they're going to do with. And I would like to see the committee sit back and try and pick a team to be in the playoffs, because they're going to have a heck of a hard time. But I'm taking Ohio State. I think they're the better team. I've got them going 12-0 in the regular season for the first time since 2019. So congratulations to Ohio State if they pull this one off. Michigan, you still got a chance, but I'm taking Ohio State. Always make sure that you're keeping your relationship with Jesus strong. That's the most important thing. Football can fulfill you for a little bit in terms of happiness. Money can, family can, all these things in the world can for a little bit. But the only thing that truly fulfills us, the only thing that truly makes us happy, is loving Christ and having a relationship with Him. So if you get anything from this podcast, it is that. It is not that Ohio State's a good team, even though they are. So God bless, folks. Have a great holiday season, and I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching.